We'll take care of that in a second. There. Okay. I did remember to change the commands. Okay, I thought I muted that. Apparently I did not, but now I have. Okay. Okay, echo is turned off. And figure out where the microphone is going to be tonight. Let's see. I think that's good. And yarn can go here. And knitting can go here. Oh, come on. I need a yarn bowl. I really need to think about getting a yarn bowl. What? Not yet, but people watch the replay. So how is everybody today? Okay, so let's see. Knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. What? Fix that. 2 purl. Hey, how are you today, ma'am? As you can see, I applied the yarn and have just started a hat. It'll be a hat with a ribbed fold up, cuff brim thing. And the body of it will be stockinette stitch. Boy, you know what? My brain. My brain. So the knit 2 purl 2 cuff thing, stockinette body. It'll probably be a little slouchy and will have a pom-pom of some sort. Probably a yarn pom-pom. Although I do have lots of fake fur, faux fur, whatever, pom-poms cut out that I just need to make. And I have those in white with black tips, and faux wolf. Yes, this is the yarn I was spinning last night. Yes, that's not focused very well, is it? Okay, focus you. Although when it's not focused, you can see the sparkles better, I think. Like when I take off my glasses to look at the Christmas tree lights. That's my mom always said, I like to look at all the Christmas lights without my glasses. They sparkle so much better. It's like they do. think the white and black palm would be cute. You know, and you could be very right. And what I will probably do is compare, you know, each of those three, because if I don't have to make a pom-pom, that's all the better. I like yarn pom-poms. They're not my favorite thing in the world to make. I don't hate making them, but you know, if I don't have to, that's even better. But you know, when I used to make when I started making the faux fur pom poms, I would just sew them on to the hat, and then someone showed me on a hat that she had that there was like a grosgrain ribbon attached to the pom pom, and you could just lace it through the top of the hat, so you can then tie a bow underneath, and then you could take it off when you wash the hat. And I thought that was very clever, so I bought some grosgrain ribbon to do that with. And now I'm seeing that the ones that you can buy, like on Amazon, you know, that come in from China or whatever, have snaps on them, and you sew half of the snap is already on the pom pom, and then you sew the other half onto the hat, and then you can just pop it off. My question is, you know, how much does that increase the chances of losing the pom pom over time? So I don't know, but I like the idea. But so this next batch I'm gonna probably make with the grosgrain ribbon, so they can be tied onto the inside of the hat. Hello, Fiber Mage. Attempted to make one with a fork, it didn't turn out great. You know, I have seen references to that. I don't know where they are off of the top of my head. Hang on a second and I'll look. Well, they're like I was gonna look for a link, but they're like the clover, the ones I got on Amazon are cheap knockoff from China sort of thing, but they work just fine. But the ones that you commonly see, like at Joann's or Michael's, are made by Clover, and they're round, but this side opens like this, and this side opens like that, and you open it up, and you wrap yarn around the half circle until it's stuffed full, and then you wrap yarn around the other half circle till it's stuffed full, and then you clip it back together. And then you snip around all the way around the outside, and then you tie. And they make really nice pom poms. Of course, you know, I'm a little OCD, so I have to trim and trim and trim and trim and trim and trim. And I spend like a lot more time trimming than I did making the pom pom, because I want them to look just so. And I need to relax that a little bit and just let them be, just let them be pom poms. Don't think you've ever washed a hat before. I usually, because, you know, of stuff being wool, I usually like to wash hats at the end of the season, and my mittens too, the end of the season and the beginning of the season, just in case of moth eggs, because I'm terrified. You know, there are, at this point in my house, and this is like, I don't have a lot of stuff for dyeing right now, and I probably still have 100 pounds of fiber in my house. And between fleeces and yarn and roving and you know, the thought of a moth outbreak just terrifies me. Fiber Mage is doing horizontal joints, and then the border, then the blanket will be. Wow, you know, that just seems really fast. That's cool. So I presume that you got all of the not interfacing, all of the was it like fusible batting, where you were having to piece pieces together? I assume you got that all figured out. Well, you know, when I was a kid, my grandmother would make pom-poms. She would just take like a matchbook because, everybody smoked when I was little. And the little, fold over and tuck in matchbooks. And she'd take one of those that was empty and she would just wrap the yarn around that until she had a big old pile of yarn wrapped around. And then she'd take a yarn needle and bring a piece of yarn through and tie a knot. And then she would just cut across from it. But then you had to do a lot of cut, snipping, and shaping. And then when I was in high school, people would take cardboard or like the lids from margarine tubs because, it was the 70s and everybody used margarine in a tub. And cut like 2 layers of, a ring, cut a circle and then cut a smaller circle out in the middle and then wrap it around and around and around and around and around. And the reason you used 2 was so you could get the scissors down in between and you'd snip. And it was the same idea as these little things with the little arms that swing out. You'd just cut all the way around and then tie yarn, down in between the 2 layers of cardboard or plastic to tie it tight. And my sister would make like pom-poms like this big because she and her friends were tying them on their sneakers, which, would look really silly right now, but back then we probably thought a lot of the things teenagers do now would be pretty silly. Hey, honey bunny, that's my honey bunny. Let me know that he's on. Oh, so in light of the little temper tantrum that happened here last night, I did have a long talk with my boss today, and she let me know that we will not be opening until June. The first weekend of June will be our first weekend being open because that's when the courts reopen, and her husband, being a lawyer, that's when he's not comfortable reopening before that. They both think that this is way too soon. They both expect, as many people do, a second wave or spike or whatever. And she believes that it would be easier to hold off for a few more weeks than to open now and then have to close again. Vibramage is a monogamous crafter, so it's pretty much the only thing you've been working on. Well, there's that. Projects take a lot longer when you've got 12 of them going at once, like some of us. Made on the Hook thought moth thing was a myth until one day left a pair of PJ bottoms in the laundry room. The laundry room was connected to the patio outside. They had fallen between the washer and dryer, and you found them with a ton of holes in them when you moved. And typically moths are attracted to protein fibers. So, cotton or polyester or whatever shouldn't be an issue. But I've had cotton socks that got lost under the bed, for 6 months or a year. And when I have found them, they've had holes chewed in them. And I read somewhere that even though they prefer protein fibers, that they will go after the, like the body oils and things that get into our clothing. So they will chew on other things, but their preferred diet is protein fiber. But yeah. So I don't have to go to work for a couple of more weeks. But yeah, it's like I was feeling kind of shaken last night after that interaction here. And, we talked it out a little more, and I felt quite a bit better. And then after I got off my stream, I logged on to Facebook, and I haven't been spending much time on Facebook because You know, people are being as big of idiots on both sides of this thing as they are about politics. And I just, it's easier to avoid it. I don't want to block my friends because, I don't need to agree with people to be friends with them. But, when they get really ravenous, then it's hard. But so one of the first posts I saw was a longtime friend of mine posting that her father died yesterday morning of COVID. And it just makes me want to shake people. And then a friend of mine, a local friend of mine today, when I was texting with her and told her that, and so now there are, for this whole time, I've known people who have lost friends to the virus. Here locally, I've known people who have been sick and on ventilators and in the hospital, but have recovered. But I found out that a woman who is a regular at the gallery and has become friends with some of us, that her grandmother turned 100 a couple of weeks ago and now has died of the virus. I didn't know her grandmother personally, but I know her and I feel her pain. And, now this friend whose father has died, these are people I care about. This is a friend we've been friends for 30 years, So I was talking to a local friend, texting today, and said, so for me, that's two people who have put a face on this pandemic for me. It's different if you don't know anybody. A lot of people don't know anybody that's been sick or, especially haven't known anybody who's died. And the response from this person was, well, to be fair, the correlation between these two people is their age. It's like, excuse me? How does that make it okay? Just because you're not 30 yet, And not everybody who's dying is, in their 70s. Is my friend saying that if I die, it won't be any big deal because, I'm older? Is she telling me that she won't feel anything? I don't know. People. Yes, I'm knitting. This is the yarn I was spinning last night with the purple sparkle. Or indigo. I think it's supposed to be indigo. But it reads to my eye as purple. So I'm calling it purple. I'm okay. I'm just feeling a little tender. yeah, I'm really happy with this yarn. I need to wash some more. I've used all of what I had washed of that particular fleece. So I need to go. It's out on the porch because I prefer to not bring fleeces from other places in the house right away. Because you never know what kind of little things are gonna come in with them. And we were just talking about how I have a fear of the moths. So I need to go out and see how much is left and wash some more, because now I'm having visions of doing some with gold sparkle and some with silver sparkle and some with pink sparkle. Because the previous, I don't know if I have any right here where I can reach. Nope, that's not it. I had done, you guys had seen me do this yarn before where I had carded in some turquoise dyed yarn and then some turquoise sparkle. And I like that. But I think I like it better with just the yarn, with just the little bit of sparkle in it. So I want to experiment some more. So, what had happened was last night I was talking, and it was fairly late in the stream, and I think a lot of you guys had wandered off to bed. And I was talking about how I was feeling kind of anxious about the prospect of going back to work, that my county goes into the yellow zone. I don't know how other states are doing it. I don't know if this is a national thing or just Pennsylvania, but a week ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever, a small handful of states went from red to yellow, and that meant that retail businesses could reopen. You're still advised to wear a mask. You're still advised to stay 6 feet apart. Businesses are advised to do curbside service if that's at all feasible. People are advised to avoid small spaces where people will be breathing each other's air for periods of time. So all of these safety things are still in place. It's just that retail businesses that were previously on the not essential list are allowed to reopen. And then tomorrow, my county goes into yellow. Allegheny County, which is where Pittsburgh is, which is about 10 or 15 miles south of me, is still in the red. Their numbers are a lot higher than ours are because, more density of population. So I was talking about how, it's like we haven't even gone into the yellow zone yet, but I'm seeing people in my community acting like as much as a week ago, like, oh, hallelujah, it's all over. We can have big parties in our backyards now and, like touch each other and, act like everything's fine. And everything is not fine. And I was feeling, and I didn't know yet if I was going to have to go to work tomorrow. And I was feeling anxious. And someone in chat who has been a follower for a while but has not really participated to speak of got all up in my face and wasn't listening to what I was saying. It had jumped to a lot of conclusions, and I was trying to explain, and then they said, well, I'm leaving. I don't come here to talk about this stupid virus. And I'm like, we've talked a lot about this. This thing impacts all of us, and, I'm not talking about the politics of it. I'm not talking about whether, I'm not talking about which side thinks who's creating I'm talking about how it impacts me, and you guys are talking about how it impacts you. And I was talking about how I feel anxious. I feel like it's too soon to be acting like everything is fine. And so, the few people who were still here, we talked about it, and about what had happened and everything. And then when I ended my stream, I got on Facebook and where I have not been spending much time recently because of stuff like that. And one of the first posts I saw was a longtime friend posting that her father had died yesterday morning from the virus. And, then I found out today talking to my boss that one of our longtime, what we call a regular customer who has gotten to be friends, with us and sometimes comes and helps with events and that sort of thing. Her grandmother turned 100 years old a couple of weeks ago and now has died from the virus, and I think people who don't have a face to put on this find it a lot easier to think that people who have anxiousness about it are overreacting. And you know what? I'm 60 years old. My respiratory system is compromised and my kidneys are compromised. I have a minimum of 3 high risk factors. If you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask, but stay the fuck away from me because I don't want your germs. And you cannot tell me I have some medical background. You cannot tell me, this person last night tried to tell me, that I would be safer outdoors than I am in my house. First of all, I never said anything to imply that I was not leaving my house at all. I can go out in my yard. My state has not demanded that people not leave their house. They've encouraged people. Get out and walk. Go for drives. Just practice social distancing. Go for a walk with your friend. Just stay 6 feet away from each other. So, but first of all, based on my understanding of what I was taught, staying inside my house for 6 weeks isn't gonna damage my immune system unless I have wiped down every surface 5 times a day with Clorox wipes and sprayed Lysol everywhere. There are microbes in my house. I have chickens. I come into contact with microbes. My immune system is as healthy as it's going to be. I don't need to go out and mingle with people who might have a virus that could kill me to keep my immune system strong. And my husband said, well, some of the argument is that if only one person in a household is going out and shopping and stuff and they bring it in, then everybody else being closed up in the house would be vulnerable to it. And I said, well, how is that? How would it be any safer for all of us to go out shopping? And then you've got, if there are 4 people in my house, that's 4 possible vectors bringing it into the house instead of 1. It's like, that doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, so yeah, I'm feeling tender. But we are not reopening until June. We'll reopen the first weekend of June and only on weekends, at least through June and possibly through July. And the next little town to us announced on their Facebook yesterday or today that they've canceled all the borough events, the town events, through the beginning of July. There's their small town summer festival that's a really big deal there. Is usually the first full weekend of July, and it's canceled. But yet, I see people in my community running around and acting like everything is fine. But I want this to be I understand that there are people who don't want to go places where people are talking about it. I've seen people have in their stream title, This is a COVID-free zone. Well, you know what? I don't have that in my title. I want this to be a community. I'm starting to care about some of you guys that, are here and participate a lot. I want to feel like we can be there for each other. If there's something you need to talk about it. And this situation has affected everybody in the world just about. I understand tensions are high and people are, some people are at their wits' end. Not everybody is an introvert. I can imagine if I had a high need for social whatevers and couldn't get out to have my drink at the bar with my friends, I'd probably be going crazy too. But that doesn't give them permission to come into my space and jump all over me for expressing my concerns. Thank you, Ashley. You guys, I've been here since I started streaming in the end of February. But I already feel like some of you guys are friends. Fiber Mage's mother-in-law has stage 4 breast cancer, and you fear for her. Your mother has an autoimmune disease, and if she gets COVID, it will kill her. Yeah, but you know what? We're old. It's just old people. So I informed my friend that, I know nurses who've lost coworkers in their 20s and 30s to this virus. There's a woman on a Facebook group I'm on right now who has 3-year-old triplets who are very ill with it and might not make it. It's like, so like... So, anyway, where I am, and I know things are different in different places, where I am, I think it's way too soon for people to be behaving the way they are. But I also know that there are people who didn't take it seriously the whole time. Thank you, Fiber Mage. Thank you, all of you. I love you guys. I'm such a sap. Next year, those who shielded themselves will need vaccine or get COVID-19 or 20 or die. But you know what I'm hearing from my very smart sciencey friends is that they're thinking that there's not a herd immunity. So not shielding yourself doesn't give you immunity. Some people do have antibodies, but there have been people with antibodies who've gotten it again and died. So, I'm not a big truster of immunization to begin with. I am not anti-vax, but I distrust a lot of the stuff that goes on in the development and implementation of immunization. And I don't know if I want a vaccine. If one becomes available, I don't know that I want it. Kind of like those tribes that come in. Yeah. But you know what? This thing was floating around here for months before we even became aware of it. There were people who got sick before any of us had ever heard of COVID-19. I have friends my friend who's the geneticist who is eyeballs deep, has been eyeballs deep in the research of this thing since before most of us had ever heard of it. He was presenting at a conference for, geeky, sciencey types in Seattle. It was either last fall or in January. It was either the very end of the year or the very beginning of the year. And his wife was there with him. And after they got home, they were both very, very ill and thought they were going to die. And he said, you know what? We had it. You know, once I knew, you know, what this thing was, he said, I know we've had it. I've not talked to them recently. I don't know if they've had antibody tests or not. But his fear even then, when he was looking at all the data coming out of China at that time, was that a large number of people who died there appeared to have had a milder case and then got well and then got really, really sick again. And so he was concerned about reinfection rates and concerned for people to not assume that if they'd had symptoms that meant that they were going to be okay. Oh, 3D Loki. If you were butchering my name, I probably didn't notice. Sometimes if I can tell somebody's having a really hard time with it, I'll type the words separately. Snoring cat fiber, and they'll be like, oh, because I struggle with people's usernames too. You are, unless you can prove what's in it when you get it. Do you mean the like an immunization? Snoring cat bear arts. You know what? That works. I'll take it. My real life name is a little odd, and I am accustomed to answering anything that comes anywhere near close. So don't worry at all. I don't get offended. So anyway, this hat is, and I made a command that lists all the commands. So you can type exclamation point commands and it'll give you a list of things that you can type commands about. So I did remember to update the project and the yarn commands. This is for any of you who were not here last night. I was spinning this. It's from a local fleece that I got from my Spinners and Weavers Guild. Every year at our December meeting has a stash to treasure where you can bring, you know, whatever fibery things you have that you're not going to use or that you wonder why the heck you bought them in the first place or whatever. And we just put them all on a couple of tables, and then we all get raffle tickets, and they draw tickets. And every time one of your numbers comes up, you can go up to the table and pick out whatever you want. And I came home with a trunk full of fleeces this year. And this was one of them, and it's baby Gotland, or Gotland lamb. So it's softer. I mean, I've had some adult Gotland. Actually, I think I still have parts of a couple of adult Gotland fleeces, and they are not soft. Although I don't know how old those sheep were. As sheep, just like people, as we get older, we start out as babies and our hair is soft and silky, and as we get older, or depending on, your racial background, it might be fuzzy and soft as opposed to silky and soft. But as we get older, it gets more coarse, and the same happens with animals. And, sheep start out with a lamb's fleece is soft, or as soft as it's ever going to be. And then as they get older, it gets more coarse and can get wiry. But this is soft. It's not like soft like merino would be, but it's soft. And it's very short fibers because, it was, the Gotland that I have this from, that is really long. locks. This is really short. They're, an inch to maybe 2 inches at the most. And so not really suitable for combing on my wool combs. So I carded it on the drum carder and I blended in just a little sparkle and was spinning it last night. And then after stream I plied it, and I'm going to do a hat. And if there's enough, I have this too. This is all that would fit on the bobbin when I plied it. So I had this little bit left. And I may do a pair of fingerless mitts to match if there's enough. Jason, child of the 70s with parents who could not be bothered to choose a non-popular name. I was born in December of 1959, and my mother named me after, there used to be this magazine for women that was called True Story, and you could send in your true life stories. And they would be, well, who knew, whether they were really true or not. But there was a person in a story in a True Life magazine whose name was Melissa, but they called her Lissa. And so my mother named me Lissa. But I get called Lisa and Melissa and Alyssa, and, I'll answer it. I don't get offended. Tons of people call me Lisa, and it's just like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But then she named my next sister Melanie from Gone with the Wind. And Melanie is common now. It was not common in 1965. And then she named my youngest sister Mandy after a character in a story. And that was in 1971, and Mandy was not at all a name anybody had heard at that point, unless your name was Amanda and they called you Mandy for short. But Amanda wasn't that common at that time, at least not, where I lived, it wasn't. But yeah, my mother was all about not using the common names. I always told her she kept our lives interesting. Let's see. Let me scroll back. I know I've been like yapping the whole time tonight and I'm not keeping up with chat. Made on the Hook says my real life name is Keely and my sister's names are Kaylee and Kylie. Am I getting those right? Growing up, I was called you or that one. Yeah, I can imagine. But when you're young parents and you're thinking about names, a lot of things that you think sound amazing or cute or whatever at that time, you're not thinking about how that's going to play out in the future. And that's just the way it is. I feel you there. There was literally 6 Jasons in my neighborhood growing up. It was pure hell when any of you were needed. Yeah. My ears would always perk up if somebody shouted, "Listen!" And I'd be like, oh, no, you're not talking to me. Beginning or end of December, actually the middle. I was not due until early in January. I was born on December 17th. Liza, when I lived in the South growing up, I got a lot of Liza. Once we moved to Michigan, I never heard Liza again. But then when I was in college, I started getting Alyssa, and I had never heard that name before. Alyssa and Alisa. But, now I see those names a lot more. Monster says, you can't talk about COVID. Go watch Masters Report. YouTube allowed to talk about yarn. And Fibermate said she gets all that with her last name. Well, my last name is Yeah. Yeah, people are like, you know what, I'm not even going to try to guess. But you know what? Where I grew up, most everybody is German and Polish, and some of those Polish names are, make mine look like Smith. Always, actually. Oh, okay. Yep, actually always catches your attention. Yeah, because, yeah, I don't know what I was going to say, but yeah, that's it exactly. Michigan, born and raised there. What part of Michigan? My family is from the Saginaw area. Actually, most of my family has always been in the Bridgeport area, but Bridgeport and Saginaw. And then I went to school in Mount Pleasant. I went to Central Michigan for both my bachelor's and master's. And then I moved to Traverse City, where I lived until the summer of 2000 when I moved to here to the Pittsburgh area. It's really weird to think that now I've been in Pennsylvania longer than I was in Traverse City, because at that point, Traverse City was the longest I'd ever lived in one place. Because, growing up in the Navy and all that. When you hear your middle name used, yeah, then you know you're in big trouble. Fiber Mage has a friend from Kalamazoo, zoo, zoo. We used to call that Kawachamacallit. There was a period of time where I was seeing someone who lived in Kalamazoo, which was about a 3.5 hour drive. So I spent a lot of time in Kalamazoo for a few years. To know where you were born because of closed adoption. Was raised in Warren and Madison Heights. Moved out at 13 and moved all around the Detroit area. Moved north near TC in 96 and have been there ever since. Can I ask where near TC? I mean, if that's, if you're concerned about divulging location, that's fine. You don't have to answer that. But I lived, let's see, I moved around the Traverse City area a lot. I had worked at the Timbers Girl Scout camp on Long Lake a couple of years when I was in grad school, because I was getting my master's degree in recreation administration, and I had been in and around the Girl Scouts since like second grade, so it was just natural. And so when I moved up there, I lived a bit east of the city for a while, and then I moved to Lake Ann, which is a bump in the road between two lakes. And I lived there for a year or two. Then I lived right downtown. I lived on 6th Street, right off of 31, right by the post office, if you're familiar with Traverse City at all. I lived there for a few years. And then I lived on a little road off of Airport Road that went up behind the Sara Lee factory. And, you'd like open the window in the morning and it'd be like, chocolate cake today. And then I lived out on M72 going out towards Empire. And then I lived in Grawn. And then I met my husband and moved to Pennsylvania. You whispered it to me. I will have to go look at Twitch. Oh, okay. No problem. I understand with not. I go back and forth about, how public I want to be about, where I actually am right now. So I certainly understand. But yes, I know where that's been. Or know where that's been. I know where that is. I've been there a bunch of times. And there is a big restaurant there. I don't know. There might be more than one now. I haven't been there in 20 years. There was a big restaurant that was kind of new. there that I went to with a bunch of friends several times and had ginormous steaks. The mall, and the Great Wolf Lodge. That doesn't ring a bell. I wonder if that's something that came to be after I left. I have not been back to Traverse City in probably 15 years. And I get very, very homesick for it. But yeah, definitely been to the mall. It was so controversial when they built that mall because it's built on part of what had been one of the Olson's buffalo farms. And after Jerry Olson, the patriarch of the Olson grocery store family, after he passed away, the family sold that property to a development, whatever, company to build a mall. But we used to go to eat at the food court at the mall a lot. There was some really kind of unusual places. Like, it was like, it's the food court at the mall, so it's kind of fast food, but they had, like a Cajun grill thing that was really good. And I don't know, just stuff that wasn't, the types of things that hadn't been available locally. What do I YouTube? I hang out on YouTube. I don't really have. I have a small channel with a different name where years and years ago I posted some stuff where I was experimenting with hydroponics and had a couple of videos that were about canning. And then I don't remember what happened and I just stopped doing it. You think it opened up in 2003 or 4 because you took your oldest there on her birthdays when she was little. Oh, Loki. Oh, that sounds cool. I had thought about, streaming fiber stuff on YouTube, but YouTube is so big, and it's hard to build. It takes a long time to build a community there. So when I figured out that there was a fledgling fiber community here on Twitch, I thought, you know what, this will work better. I need to move that. And I've been talking and talking and talking and talking, and my throat's getting dry. It was a total blast back then, but there was no affiliate program, no merch, no Patreon, no way to really make any money, so real life took precedence. Well, during the time when I was, I remember when people were first being offered partnership, or I forget what YouTube called it at the time. But it was people who had really big channels were being offered the ability to have ads and make some money. And then by the time I had started uploading, everybody was monetized. You just decided whether you wanted to monetize your videos or not. And of course, if not all videos were eligible, but everybody could. And so I probably made like $12, and then they changed it, and you have to have 1,000 followers to be even considered, or subscribers. Okay, what just happened? Thank you for the follow. Severus05, thank you for the follow. Okay. You want to learn how to pickle okras and cucumbers, and I have to admit that I first read that as that you wanted to learn to pickle orcas. I was going to say you're going to need a lot of jars. Pickling is easy because, you know, if you make sure that your brine is mixed to the right acidity level, I mean, you don't even have to well, now it's the terminology is a little sticky. You don't have to can them. You just need to be, because they don't need to be sterilized, they just need to be pasteurized. So you can water bath them at a lower temperature for a different amount of time, and they'll still be safe. Or if you're going to put them in the refrigerator, you don't have to. That's why there's a thing called refrigerator pickles. You just, you know, stuff the stuff in the jar, pour the brine over it, and put it in the fridge for a certain length of time. It takes a little time for, you know, everything to like soak into the vegetables. And then you just keep them in the fridge and eat them out of the jar. But if you want to be able to store them on the shelf in the pantry or whatever, then to be absolutely safe, you should at least pasteurize them, if not can them. And the acidity is so high that the chances of botulism, I would say, and I am not a food chemist, but based on what I know and the experience I have and the food chemist I've talked to, I would say the chances of botulism in a jar of pickles is low, as long as the acidity level is appropriate. But there's still a chance of spoilage, and you've spent time and money, you know, putting that food in those jars, and why would you want to take the chance that, you know, they'll grow mold and you'll have to throw them away? You know, my chickens wouldn't mind if a jar of canned food spoiled and went to them. Although something that was a risk of botulism I wouldn't give to my chickens. I would dispose of it where no critters could get into it. But pickles, you know, high acid things are a risk of spoilage, but not as big a risk of, you know, where you have to worry about botulism is with low acid foods like vegetables and meat and things like that. 3D Loki says same with Twitch. You were here back when it was Justin TV. See, that was I wasn't aware of it then. Then like maybe the first year of it being Twitch, and Amazon called it the partner program. Okay, yeah. Yep, that sounds sort of like what I remember. Well, yes and no. Your banner was placed over other videos to get you more views. Oh. And YouTube cut you a monthly check if you were part of the first or second group. There was a gardening guy. I think it was called Voodoo something, Voodoo Gardens or something. And he was the first person I ever saw be invited into that program. But I didn't really know how it worked. You were tech supposed to be in the first or second groups, but your rep was ever so nice to email that even though you meet the requirements and are in the top 200 channels, you do not fit what they are looking for. Yeah, they do that a lot. If you're not towing the line that they want to project, you don't get monetized, or you get monetized but then they demonetize your videos and then monetize them like after 48 hours when the big rush of people have already seen them, so that like drastically cuts into your ad revenue. I know a woman I've been watching for years who has always done homesteading videos, and she's the kind of person I wish was my next door neighbor. Her name is Bev Wolfe, and her first channel was called Our Half Acre Homestead. Well, she's had a lot of physical issues and a lot of chronic pain for much of her life, and has been licensed in Canada as a medical marijuana user for years. And she started a channel called Cooking with Cannabis, where she would teach people how to use, I mean, she initially didn't smoke it. She just always made edibles because she used to be a cigarette smoker, and she was worried that the hand of the that it would make her want cigarettes. So she didn't smoke for a long time. But she makes all these amazing videos teaching people how to, turn their cannabis into edibles and how to figure out your dosages and what strains will help, what your physical things are. And she doesn't diagnose or prescribe or anything. She just helps people figure out how to use what they have. And she's got a huge following on that channel, and they frequently demonetize her videos. So too long, didn't read, you were too blue. Yeah, not brand friendly. What is, botulism is, botulism is a toxin that grows in, and the spores exist in the soil. I mean, it's everywhere. We consume the spores all the time. But if the spores are in food that's stored in a low acid anaerobic environment, like a canning jar that has carrots or meat or something in it, something that's not high acid, the spores will give off a toxin. And when the toxin reaches a certain level, if we ingest it, then generally speaking, it'll kill us. If it's caught early enough, you can be treated and recover from it. But some people, even if they recover from it, have lifelong issues from it for the rest of their lives. And it's a scary thing, and it's why a lot of people don't can. But all of the contemporary research, if you look on the internet for the National Center for Home Food Preservation or something like that, or any of the state's agricultural extensions, the information there is good. Some of us who understand a little more of the science understand that there are precautions, that when they don't recommend canning something, they don't tell you whether it's because of safety issues or quality issues. And so that's frustrating. And there are a lot of things that they don't recommend because they haven't tested them yet, because they don't have the time or the funds. So that's a little frustrating. But if they say that a certain recipe or a certain procedure is safe, then it is. And it used to be stated that anything that was canned, you should boil for 10 minutes before you consume it. And now the standard is that if you used proper tools, proper procedures, and proper handling methods, that canned food is safe to eat right out of the jar. So, everybody goes with whatever they feel comfortable with, obviously. And I might choose, there are things that I choose to can that are not recommended to be canned. But if I can make a really good educated guess about why I think they don't recommend it, and I can work within or around that concern, then, there are a few things that I can that aren't recommended. But that's my choice. I'm not going to tell somebody else, oh yeah, go ahead and put barley in that soup you're going to can. Barley isn't recommended. But, I make my own choice based on my own research. And, other people should do the same. You shouldn't take anybody's word for it, except the agricultural extension. Take their word for it. Oh, that was all before. Oh, you know what? Yeah, before Google bought YouTube. I always forget about that. A lot changed at that point. was all before monetization, advertisers, and before Google. This was when they claimed to be all about you. But if you looked at those first partners, they were all the pretty people or people who were famous outside of the platform itself. Zipster, for example, was a famous singer. Okay. Be right back. Gotta grab a smoke and get ready for the JOB thing. So, anyway, Fiber Mage, I hope I answered your question without. I have a tendency to rattle on and on and on and on. You guys have probably noticed that. And I'm not knitting. People, feel free to yell at me. Say, hey, we come here for the fiber. But there used to be, well, I think it's still there, but it's not what it once was. There back when we went to Yahoo for our groups, there was a candy group on Yahoo that was absolutely amazing. And there were people on that group who were actually food chemists who could say, okay, don't take my word for it, but this and this and this and this and this. And this is why I believe they don't recommend thus and such. And so, you could take that information and then you could go do some more research and be like, okay, well, I'm comfortable with that. But most of the people on that group have now moved to a canning group on Facebook, which is turned into I hesitate to use this term. I know some people might find it offensive, but what are frequently referred to as canning Nazis. It's like if it's not from a recipe published by an Ag Extension or the National Center of whatever, or in the Ball Blue Book, then you can't can it. It's like, well, okay. Okay, I'll just, I just won't answer people's questions. So I have ended up being happier on some of the groups that are like for rebel canners. Although I don't classify myself as a rebel canner, because I don't think that just because my grandmother did open kettle method for tomato juice that I should. She was working with the information that was available at the time. Or, so-and-so's grandmother always water bath boiled the green beans jars for 3 hours. And none of them died. Well, not everybody dies from botulism, but, it's not worth the risk. And there was a lot of, 50 or more years ago, a lot of people died from, mysterious illnesses that are now suspected to have been food poisoning. So, and besides, do you really want to eat green beans that were already boiled for 3 hours before you dump them out of the jar and cook them, and then boil the snot on them for another 10 minutes? So, if I can pressure can my green beans for, I can't remember off the top of my head, I'm going to say like 35 minutes, then isn't that better than boiling the snot out of them for 3 hours? But there are people who insist on doing it the way their great-grandmother did it, even though, food science was not what it is now. And, those are the people I consider rebel canners. They're going to do what they're going to do, and they don't care what anybody says. I just choose to use my brain and my ability to research to figure out, what I'm comfortable with. I don't want to die of botulism. I don't want to kill my family. But anyway. Hey, we come here for the fiber. And whatever you want to talk about. Well, I like talking about what you guys want to talk about too. And sometimes my brain just runs out. It's like I rattle on for a couple hours and then my brain's empty and I'm like, okay, what do you guys want to talk about? So, Ashley, any more news on the bot? Have you taught it any more tricks? What if I made that took the longest? You mean that I've actually put the most hours into, or the one that sat around in bags and baskets for years before I got them finished? The 6 Mile Yarn Project took a lot of hours of spinning and washing fleece and combing it and spinning. But the biggest thing, I've knitted a couple of sweaters. Well, probably blankets. You know, there have been blankets, both knitted ones and crocheted ones, that have taken a long time. But most of what I make, because I'm making stuff to sell and lower price points sell better, most of what I make is I knit hats and mitts, and I weave scarves, and I weave scarves for sale rather than knitting them because I can weave them faster. So then I end up making a little more per hour than I would if I knitted them, if that makes sense. See, anything I can do to increase the profit margin, because, you know, I'm not making a ton of money. And hand woven items have a higher perceived value than hand knitted items. So, you know, so the things that I weave, and once you get the loom threaded and start weaving, the weaving doesn't take as long. You know, it's like when we do our sheep to shawl competitions, the warp is already on the loom, so that yarn has already been spun. The yarn that goes vertically. But a team with a weaver and 3 spinners can process, spin, and weave all of the weft, the yarn that goes horizontally, and have that shawl off the loom in within 3 hours. So, you know, I couldn't knit a 24-inch by 82-inch or whatever shawl in 3 hours. So, but it's perceived to be a higher value because of the skill and whatever that has to go into it. I guess people figure that knitting is common and it's what their grandmother did, as opposed to, you know, weaving being this mysterious thing, if that makes sense. And Ashley says, nope, no new news there really. Hit a couple of walls with it, but it just means you can't do everything you want. That's fine though, can work around it, you think. Pausing on it for now to work on getting a newsletter together and getting a couple of blog posts out. Cool. You'll figure it out. And sometimes we just need to take a little break from something and sleep on it, you know, let our brain, you know, run algorithms in the background, so to speak. Fiber Mage made a crocheted king-size Tree of Life blanket that took 3 years. Wow. And since you're a monogamous, mostly crafter, does that mean that was all you worked on for 3 years? Or did you, you know, set it aside from time to time and take little breaks? Whoops. Whoops, that should be a knit. It was a wedding gift that they got on their 3rd anniversary. Yep, my family's used to that kind of thing. Monster made me her first stuff she sold so you could remember the rascal. I'm not sure if I follow. There are pictures of it on your Instagram. While you're there, you can check out your giveaway. I saw your giveaway. You had to set it aside. There was no way you were going to do something that big all on its own for that long. Yeah. Oh. And she made you buy her first stuff that she sold. That's very cute, actually. Your text messes up. Are you typing on your phone? I can't type for crap on my phone. I actually bought a Bluetooth keyboard to use if I'm going to be having like long conversations where I need to type on my phone. Because I'm pretty darn fast on a keyboard. Because I learned to type on manual typewriters back in the day when you had to use typewriter erasers. Was even, we didn't even get in my office typing class, in business typing class in high school, we didn't even get to use whiteout at first. We had to use typing erasers, and they would chew the bejeebies out of your paper. And then they let us use whiteout, and that just makes a big old mess. I was so smitten when, what did they used to call them? When word processors came out. It was like a whole computer, but all it did was word processing. I thought that was the coolest thing, because you could fix it and make it perfect before you printed the silly thing out on a dot matrix printer. The times have changed. It took 35 minutes to do one plain row and 45 minutes to do a complex row. Yeah, I can imagine. Made in the Hook said couldn't do it. Very impressive. Well, and it seems like you do a lot of smaller projects like I do, Made on the Hook. I started to say earlier, before I probably distracted myself, I do a lot of small stuff because most of what I do is for sale. So I do a lot of mitts and mittens, a lot of hats, and I guess I already did say that. And I weave a lot of scarves. I don't often do bigger knitted things for sale, but I do bigger woven things. I do a lot of shawls and wraps. And then, I've had this plan for some time where, I'm going to just weave extra bits of fabric and I'm going to cut them up and make bags out of them. And I've got a stack of hand-woven fabric waiting. And I have zippers, and I have some of those little metal purse frames that, snap open and close. I think those are very sweet. And I want to make frame purses, and they sit. I probably bought those. Well, I bought those before we moved into this house, and we've lived here since December of 2015. So like 5.5 years ago, more than that, because I had them for a little while in the apartment. Someday I will get around to it. No pressing enter on each letter or screen or talking in the remote. Yeah, I haven't ever really messed around with the like using the voice to text on text messaging or anything, because my friends who do, I get the silliest messages from them. I'm like, your who, what, your aunt did what, and they'll be like, what? I didn't say that. It's like, well, that's what it says you said. Made on the Hook doesn't enjoy flat projects. I don't mind flat projects. But what I mind is sewing flat pieces together. So I knit in the round as much as I can. Now I don't mind sewing per se, and I don't even mind hand sewing, like for historical garments and things. But for knitted pieces, I do not want to sew them together. And I don't like weaving in the ends. That's why I have socks that are like 5 years old that I never wove the ends in. Although this new pair of socks I did wove the ends in before I wore them, because I knew you guys would see them. I had a friend who did. She liked sewing the pieces together and she liked weaving the ends in. And so she'd be like, save up your stuff. I'm coming to visit. Save up your stuff. But she passed away, and I no longer have anyone who likes to sew things together or weave in the ends. So I have to do it myself. But she is the only person I ever knew who I think honestly, I think there are people who don't mind it. She liked it. She enjoyed it so much, she would offer to do it for other people. She would also offer to organize people's kitchen drawers. She was a little OCD. But in a good way, you know what? If people are willing to pay you to organize their kitchen drawers and you enjoy it, then, I don't have a problem with that. As your sister would say, whatever feeds your chickens. I like that. I have chickens. Although, some of you have heard me speak of the ornery rooster. The ornery rooster passed away this afternoon of unknown causes, probably age. Every once in a while, a chicken will just drop dead. And he did. And I have really mixed feelings because he was ornery and annoying. But at the same time, I really liked him. Ever since he was from our first batch of chicks that we bought as chicks at Tractor Supply. He was supposed to be a girl. And he basically was all of our favorite. And as soon as it's obvious he was a rooster, I kept telling him, you better be a hen or you're going to end up going to freezer camp. You're going to be soup. But we never had the heart. Because, he was one of our little chicken babies. What I always say, if you're going to eat the livestock, don't name them. Well, we didn't. We didn't name him, but we still couldn't do it. But he's gone. The neighborhood mornings will be much quieter now. Although everybody that we talk to in the neighborhood, we're like, let us know if the rooster bothers you, let us know. We'll deal with it. And, everybody that I talk to was always like, oh, no, God, we like that. I really like hearing that crowing. I'm like, oh, well, good thing we have a rooster collar on him, because if we didn't have him collared, he'd be a lot louder. So now we just have hens. and now I don't have to worry about coming into the house after I feed the chickens and looking in the mirror and seeing like chicken muck on my face because where he scratched and tried to attack the chicken food and flung mud at me. Because, it's not just mud, it's chicken muck. Hi, Birding Mom, how are you? We get brown eggs, mostly brown eggs. We have one hen who lays white eggs and one Easter egger who lays green eggs. When I was growing up, my grandma always had a mixed flock. So, there were brown eggs and white eggs. My grandfather loved Araucanas back in the day when they were new in this country. And he won a lot of bar bets, saying he had chickens that laid Easter eggs. And, so I grew up with the bluey greeny eggs. And so when I was able to finally have chickens, I wanted some. And I bought two blue Americanas because that's all I could find. And I got a rooster and a hen because I hoped to raise little Americana babies. Well, then the hen turned into a rooster. It's like, man, I paid like $20 for you guys. And then, they both dropped dead within a year. You'd go out in the morning and they would have died and fallen off the roost in their sleep and be like, oh man, I am not ever spending $20 on a chick again, ever. I'll get what I get. And, the Easter egger chick was like $2. So I have my green eggs. Everybody that you know that has chickens either get blue or brown eggs. What kind of chickens have white eggs? Well, there are a lot of breeds that have white eggs. And I think that a lot of people who have their own chickens like to have brown eggs or blue eggs because almost all the eggs in the grocery store are white. And it just sort of feels like you're homesteading. Or like you have yourself a little farm if you have brown eggs, because people always associated brown eggs with, farmers. The chicken that we have that lays white eggs is a Leghorn. Because there are different breeds that lay white, different breeds that lay brown. And amongst the brown, there are breeds that lay lighter eggs and darker eggs. There are some that are so light that they're considered to be so light of a brown they're considered to be pink, although they're really, it's just a very pale brown. There are some that are speckledy. Some we have some of our hens are Rhode Island Reds, and a couple of them lay like a fairly uniform brown egg, and a couple of them lay like a speckledy brown egg. So it's like either the background is lighter and the speckles are darker, or the background is darker and the speckles are lighter. And then there are some that lay darker eggs, and in particular the black copper Marin lays what they call chocolate eggs. They're very dark brown, but then as the chicken ages they get lighter and lighter, but they're like their first laying season they lay very dark brown eggs. And then there are where people have bred brown layers with green layers to get what they call an olive. So there are Easter eggers that are a mixed breed that lays green eggs, and then there are olive eggers, which are a mixed breed that lay more of an olive green egg. You want to raise some Turkins. And see, I would be content to just have the brown eggs and the green eggs, but it's kind of fun if you like to dye Easter eggs. it's kind of fun to have a few white eggs too. And you can certainly dye the brown eggs, but you get, different colors than if you dye white eggs. So just for the most colorful Easter baskets, I like having all three colors. I've thought it would be fun to have some turkeys, but they're noisy. Hens are pretty noisy. Hens make a lot of noise. When a hen is laying an egg, the whole neighborhood knows. There's this sound they make that's called egg song. And if you get on a chicken group and you mention egg song, everybody knows what you're talking about. They are very proud when they lay an egg. And sometimes if there's a rooster, the rooster will join in the egg song because he is proud of his girls. Or if he's a good rooster. And the housemate would like ducks. But, we don't have a pond. And he's like, well, I could have he's got a wading pool that, he's like, I could just, they could swim in the pool. It's like, yeah, they make a mess of the water and they make a lot of noise. And I don't think they'd stay in the yard. It's like if we were on acreage, I would be all about having some ducks too. Have you ever seen baby ducks? Oh my God. They're so cute. Birding Mom says, I'm good. Have a very needy cat who is shedding profusely and you're knitting a black swatch. This should be interesting. Oh man. That's usually the stuff they want to lay on too, the stuff that's going to show the hair the most. A neighbor raised actual turkeys. Yes, they do look weird. You know what else looks weird is the frizzle chickens. I think they're a cross between a silky chicken and a regular chicken, but they're like feathers, like go in all different directions. They look absolutely silly. Domestic turkeys are stupid. Yes, they will. Yes, they absolutely will. Lay down in the rain looking up at it with their mouth open. Turkeys in the wild, I don't think are that stupid. So I don't know what we did when we domesticated them that decreased their brain capacity. Now chickens, a lot of people will say chickens are stupid. And chickens can be stupid, but they can also be very clever. So I'm not exactly sure, it's like they have, and their brain isn't very big, but they can figure that, it's like we had a hen when we were first moving in and we still had some boxes on the back deck. I had boxes of canning jars sitting back there until I could get around to dealing with them. And some of them were a little ways away from the wall. And one of the hens, when they were full grown but still young, got back behind there and couldn't figure out. She was back there for like 4 days before we found her. I was so glad, she didn't starve to death. Because, we didn't know if something had gotten her because we were letting them free range during the day at that point. But then, after a few days, the housemate heard her and managed to figure out where the sound was coming from. She got back there, or they'll go across. We have chain link fence. They'll go across the fence and they can't figure out how to come back. It's like, well, how did you get over there? And they're like, well, I saw this bug. They're very silly. But yet they can also be very clever. They can figure other things they can figure out, and I don't understand. Don't really understand chicken psychology. Yeah, wild turkeys are very, very smart. And there are, like, if you look in the catalogs where you can order baby chicks and stuff, you can get the breeds, domestic turkey breeds that are less domestic, I guess you could say. They're more primitive. The farms or turkey ranches or whatever they would be called that raise the butterballs and the honeysuckle whites and stuff, they want a very specific type of turkey that's been bred to within an inch of its life. So, yeah. Yes, you get, more breast meat, on a wild turkey, or um, a less, uh, a wild turkey or a turkey that's closer to the wild. Um, you don't get as much meat. They don't get that ginormous breast that we learn to expect from Norman Rockwell paintings, if that makes sense. 2 more rows, 2 more rows, 2 more rows. You're almost finished. Well, almost finished with that part. Move the thing so the knitting needles don't whack on it. Because I'm like, what's that clicking sound? Oh, whacking the mouse. My phone's blinking. Was my honey bunny texted me from upstairs. Oh, there's a big sparkly spot. Where I had a big glob of Angelina. He probably won't answer. He's not watching chat the whole time, but he pops in and out. He's playing some space game or another tonight. I can't keep track. He's got several games that all look like Master of Orion, and I can't keep track of which one is which. The music is really loud in my headphones tonight. Let me know if it's ever too loud for you guys. You still think it's funny that we both have Richards? Yeah. Yeah, especially since, most of the Richards I've ever known have not gone by Richard. They're Rick or Dick or Rich or something. Really can't. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind Rick, but my Richard is just not a Rick. He's a Richard. One of the waitresses at a restaurant he used to work at called him Dickard, and we thought that was that was pretty clever. And he has a T-shirt that says "Don't be a Richard." That unfortunately not everyone gets. It's like, come on, people. So I'm glad that my mother-in-law insisted on calling him Richard because when I first lived with him, the next door neighbor would call and ask for Rick, and I'd be like, I'm sorry, you must have the wrong number. And then I'd hang up and she'd call back and I'd be like, I'm so sorry. We call him Richard. But she insisted she always called him Rick, or like, I don't know any Ricks. And obviously that was back in the days of landlines. That's how long it's been. 20 years. Although I still deal with a landline at work. But we haven't had a landline at home in, well, nearly 20 years. When Radio Shack made the cat, you mean the cat phone? Yes, I do, actually. Pretty soon you'll be able to say, do you remember Radio Shack? And young people will be like, what? I grew up with phones with rotary dials. The first touch tone phone I ever had was when I was a junior in college. I got, well, no, it wasn't my first apartment. We still had a rotary phone. And then my first house, I was a junior in college, and there was no phone, so I had to go down to the phone company and pick out a phone, and it was a red touch tone. I think they called it a slim line or a trim line, that was, shaped like that, and as opposed to being a big box with a big receiver. And it was red. It was the first phone I ever had that wasn't black. Oh, cat mouse scanner. I don't remember that. I remember one of my friends in college was the first person I ever knew to own a personal computer. He was a computer science major, and he asked me to go with him to Radio Shack, and he bought a computer. And I was absolutely stunned. And he was going to use it to do homework. And I'm like, well, so you're going to take it to class with you? And he's like, no, I can do it over the phone. And I'm like, you can what? So he had a modem that you took the receiver off the phone and you sat it on the modem. It was wild. I was absolutely stunned. Landlines are great for finding your cell phone. Yeah, I can see that. Maybe we should get a landline. And your mom still has her rotary. My mom still has a rotary phone on the wall in the kitchen, but she has a cell phone. But her cell phone, it's not a smartphone. It doesn't do anything. It just calls. I'm not sure it even texts, because she doesn't ever text me. You think it's interesting that they still ask for a home phone and a cell phone number? Yeah. Every once in a while, I will encounter someone locally who doesn't have email, and that surprises me. And then when they give me their phone number, I can tell it's a landline. Because sometimes at work somebody will have a question that I can't answer, and so I'll have my boss get back to you and if you want to leave your contact number, blah blah blah. And I said, she prefers email. Oh, honey, I don't have email. It's like, oh, really? And then they write down their phone number, and it's obvious by the first 3 digits that it's it's one of the local landline numbers. Birding Mom says, I remember my boss saying that home computers were stupid and a fad because there was really nothing you'd put on them. Well, before the internet, I think most people couldn't fathom why you would want to have a computer. Well, and anymore, I think a lot of people don't have a computer. They do everything that they need to do on a tablet or their smartphone. And I know tons of people who don't have printers. And I thought, I don't know how I could get by with it. I mean, I used to use my printer a lot more. I don't use a printer as much now. But I can't imagine not having a printer, not having access to a printer, not having a computer with a keyboard I could type on. Like I was saying earlier, I hate typing on my phone. I'm a touch typist. Certain fingers go on certain keys. I can't do this thumb thing. Fibermage remembers having a 9-foot phone cord on your home phone. One could never get any privacy on. Yeah. Talk about constant teasing if a boy called. When my husband and I had our first cell phone, we shared one. And so it stayed at home. And it stayed mostly plugged into the wall. And we would stand in the kitchen near where it was plugged in to talk on it. And people would laugh at us. You can, unplug that and walk around with it. Yeah, we had that. We shared that one cell phone. And that was the phone I was complaining about recently, that it didn't even text. I was so disappointed when I got it. But it would have cost 10 cents per message, so it probably saved us a lot of heartache. And Birding Mom remembers sitting on the kitchen floor under the rotary and talking to her friends. We had a long enough cord. My mom's phone was on the wall in the kitchen, but the phone was long enough you could go sit in the garage just outside. You could just, go through the kitchen door and carefully close the door so you didn't, break the cord. And you could sit out there and talk a little more privately with your boyfriend. But you couldn't really do that in the winter because, it was Michigan. But yeah, yep, I sat on the kitchen floor a lot talking on the phone. And now, girls don't even do that. They text each other. 40 feet. That's a lot. And then when we finally got our own, Richard and I finally got individual cell phones. We had little flip phones that texted. We thought we were cool. And the apartment had, and we have always blamed it on the aluminum siding on our apartment building, but the reception inside the building was really bad. It would drop calls really, So if we needed to talk on the phone, we'd go and stand on the porch. And in the winter, that was a pain in the butt. Texts came through fine, but calls would drop. Or you'd try to call somebody and you couldn't get the call to ring through. And then when we got our next phones after that, they were fine. But I think at that point, things had gone to 3G. And so, for whatever reason, the signals came through the walls of the house better. Birding Mom says, kids do not know how to talk on the phone, and something has to be on fire before they will call someone. Well, even, let's see, when was it? When I was the manager of the video store and all my employees were teenagers, it took me a while because, if somebody would call in, well, here they call it calling off. Somebody would call off, in where I spent most of my life, we called that calling in sick. But, so they would call and say, I can't work. And, usually they'd give me like an hour to have to try to find somebody. Or I would have to stay if I couldn't find anybody. And I would call everybody and nobody would return my calls. And I thought, well, okay, fine, they just don't want to work. Eventually I figured out if they texted me, I would get a response back right away. And oftentimes some of them did want to work. So it's like, why don't you guys answer your phone when it rings? Oh, I have the ringer off. So I learned to text from the teenagers at the video store. Fiber Mage's dad had a home network before it was cool. When his company switched from Apple to PC, he took a lot of the old Apple computers and set them up in your basement for the Boy Scouts to play games on. There were like 20 tiny little 6x6 inch screens. Oh, that's cool. They were called computer campouts. And Globulus One says, I could call the neighbor down the street and say I'm at your door and my cord was so long. Oh my goodness. And you can do that now, but there's no cord. Yeah, that was quite a feat. Yeah, I see the when I was in massage school, which was the fall of 1990, one of the students in my class had a car phone. It was a bag phone, but we called them car phones then. And it didn't work very well because where we were, up in the boonies of northern Michigan, there weren't very many cell towers yet. So I'm like, what's the point of having this if it doesn't work most of the time? If you're going to have car trouble out in the middle of the Huron National Forest and nobody can hear you, do you exist? Well, and that was, the first cell phone that Richard and I got, the one that we shared. We kind of got it because I was working. I was still doing massage at that time, and where I was working was about a 45-minute drive away. And some of in Pennsylvania, in western Pennsylvania, there are a lot of roads that, rather than cutting through the hills, they just made the roads where old game trails were. They call old Indian trails. Well, they're Indian trails because the Indians were following the game, the Native Americans. But so a lot of times there'll be a 2-lane in it, like it's curving around the side of, hill. To me, they're mountains. The locals, they're hills. Curving around the side of the hill. So there's nowhere to go that way and nowhere to go this way because it drops off. And in some places, the shoulder is washing out and they don't have what I would consider a proper guardrail. They, at least, 20 years ago, they're starting to be more guardrails now. But they have posts with like steel cable going through them, and you could see where another couple of hard rains, the road's going to wash out, and I'm going to go over the edge of that, and I want to be able to call my honey bunny to come rescue me. Well, it turned out I didn't have a signal in any of those areas anyway. Now, in the days of whatever G we're on, and satellites, we can get a signal most anywhere, but back in those days, what a fat lot of good it does me having this cell phone if I'm not going to be able to call anybody for help anyway. Phones required large batteries. Yeah, the bag that the phone was in, the phone was mostly the battery. And it was the size of, I don't know how many of you would know what I meant if I said like a military ammunition box from like World War II. It had to weigh 10 or more pounds. Vibermage only has one more row, but so sore she just has to put it down for the night. Well, that's okay, because then you can look forward to finishing it the next time you pick it up. Radio Shack had a cell phone with a cord to a 10-pound battery, $788. Yeah. Well, and even like when I was doing massage full time, most massage therapists had a pager because that way somebody could reach you. If you didn't have to sit in your office all day, if you didn't have appointments scheduled, you'd run errands or whatever. And yeah, we had pagers, and they weren't cheap. And you had to pay for phone service for the silly things. But yeah, and then, even in my first cell phone, you had to pass, before you could get like a plan through AT&T or any of the big companies, you had to have really good credit. And, a lot of people couldn't get a cell phone. And, so people had to use prepay. And, that was the dawn of the cricket phones. And lots of people had cricket phones because they couldn't pass the credit check for a phone plan. We had, our first phone was through a company called Liberty Wireless. And I don't remember how we ended up with them. I think we had applied for a phone, but it was a shaky financial time for us because of Richard's divorce and his ex-wife, dragging him through bankruptcy and stuff. And we couldn't qualify for a cell phone with a plan. And so, but we had applied for one, and they bumped us over to, they're like, we're sorry, we can't help you, but here, try these people. So we had that phone through Liberty Wireless for probably 4 or 5 years until they finally wouldn't let us renew because they didn't have our plan anymore, and they wanted us to upgrade to this and that and the other thing, and we were like, maybe it's time to, So we got phones through Singular at that point, and that was our snazzy little clamshell phones. Those were the cool phones at that time. Our previous phone had been the ones they called a candy bar. Just a little rectangle with a little antenna thing sticking out the top of it. Really didn't fit in your pocket very well. And now I'm addicted to Galaxy Notes. I had the little, after my flip phone, I had the, it was a Palm, but it was a phone. I think it was called a Clio, but it had the little chiclet keys on it, and it had some games like a Palm, like you could play on Palm Pilot. The screen sucked though. But that one, on really hot days, if I had it in my pocket, it would overheat and turn itself off. But it was pretty. It was white. And then after that, I got a smartphone because I wanted to be able to use Square for credit cards. And then, so I had some Motorola smartphone that was so small I couldn't see my text messages. And then after that, I got a Galaxy Note, the Galaxy Note 1, and have had right now I have a Galaxy Note 5. I really need a new one, but I want the new one, the Note 10 Plus, and I can't justify what it costs when this one is still working. Your first phone was, I think a lot of people's first phones were flip phones. The tiny Nokia brick. And with the thing I hated, I was so happy when I got a phone where I could actually type, where I actually had a keyboard and I could type out texts, because I sucked. It was like, okay, I have to press this key 3 times and then this key 4 times to get the letters you wanted, It's like, holy cow, how can you teenagers do this so fast? And they were funny because, they take pity on the old people. If you needed to have their phone number in your phone, they'd be just like, here, hand me your phone. I'll put it in. It's like, okay, thank you. It was hilarious. Your first phone was a Firefly. Trying to think if I know what that is. We have always kept our phones way longer than the phone companies want you to keep them. Like I said, I have a Galaxy Note 5 and they're on 10 Plus now. My husband has a Galaxy S4. And Fiberman says, got really good at it for a while. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna see Ashley's picture of the phone. Oh my gosh, that's cute. That's a phone? Yeah, we didn't have so many buttons on them in those days. That is so cute. It was oh yeah, kids phone. You could only make phone calls and only stored 5 contacts. Birding Mom said, now fireflies are for seniors. Yeah, like my mom. Yeah, everybody in my house has smartphone. We don't have any kids though, you know. The youngest is 19, so I'm just amazed, you know, at how many little kids have their own smartphones. It's like, God, that phone costs like $1,000. Why are you giving it to a 6-year-old? And I always laugh because people will, you know, I know a lot of people will hand the smartphone or the tablet, but often the smartphone to a toddler, you know, just to keep them occupied so they're quiet in the store, quiet in a restaurant or whatever. And then I hear stories about people getting FaceTime chats from like 2-year-olds. Okay, 2.5. How much do I want to fold up? 2.5 inches or 3 inches? Maybe I'll go for 3. Have I mentioned, like in the last hour, how awesome you guys are? And how much I enjoy hanging out with you? Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate it. I wish we could all hang out together in real life. You guys want to all move here and we'll form our own fiber guild? Thank you, Made on the Hook. Oh, thank you, Ashley, for all the little corgis. Thank you for you guys. I appreciate the bits so much. And Birding Mom and everybody, thank you so much. Oops, some of them didn't make it. And you guys know, if you're cheering at least 10 bits, if you actually type words into the thingy, it will text to speech it. Just so you know. Oh my God, thank you. God, you guys. Gonna get me all verklempt. I am feeling a little delicate and all. Gonna make me cry again. Oh my gosh, Ashley. Okay, you guys. I have to clean my glasses off. I'm kind of glad I don't have a face camera at this minute. Hey, you guys. Okay, thank you. I don't even know how to tell you guys how much I appreciate you. I am so glad. You know, I started this not really expecting that anybody would even ever watch. You know, there's that whole, you know, and I've heard other streamers talk about it too. That, you know, I mean, are you guys familiar with the concept of imposter syndrome? It's, you know, just like, you know, why would anybody want to watch me stream? Why would anybody want to watch me sit and knit? You know, and then people start coming around and they follow, and then you start thinking, well, you know, eventually they're going to figure out that, you know, I'm a loser and they're all going to leave. I still feel like that. Ashley is a huge imposter too. Okay, Ashley, we can be imposters together. But you know what? Every time I watch your coding streams, you know, I don't always know what you're doing. I mean, I have an idea what you're doing. I don't know enough to understand the process. But, you know, I see other coders coming in and, you know, asking you questions and obviously being impressed with what you're doing and taking you seriously. You're not an imposter. Fibermage posted a picture of her blanket in Discord. Let's all go. Well, you guys probably already did all go look. I'm going to go look too. Okay, push the... It's like, no, don't hit the end stream button. The end stream button is in a really, really bad place. At least on my computer. Okay, where's the Discord? There's the Discord. I can't see. My eyes are all blurry. Oh, wow. Oh, you know what? I had forgotten it was a rainbow. That's gorgeous. This one's for your daughter? Yeah. This one's for your daughter, right? Or am I thinking of the previous one? Anyway, I hope whoever it's for loves it. Anxiety really facilitates that, yeah. You know, some of that is just because even though, you know, things are, the climate for women is better now than it was when I was growing up or even when I was in college. But we still get messages, you know, as women, and some of it we do to each other about, you know, not being good enough or not being, you know, it's like we haven't gotten the validation. And I think, you know, like schools and children's programs over the last couple of decades have really tried to encourage better self-esteem in kids, but some of the things they've done didn't really work the way they had planned. Given everybody, I don't know. I think that, we set a generation of people up to not have the emotional tools for dealing with the world because they never learned how to recover from losing. It's like we don't always win. That's just life. We can't always excel, but we can be encouraged to always do our best, but also learn how to fail gracefully and pick ourselves up and try again. And it's like each generation experiments on the one that comes next, trying to figure out how to raise good children, or to raise our children to be good adults, and we haven't figured it out yet. Birding Mom says she's never known a streamer or YouTuber who thought someone would watch or listen. I think it's human nature. I think so too. I've seen a handful of big egos that don't have that fear. But I also acknowledge that sometimes when people appear to have that big an ego, they're hiding the fact that they have the fear. So yeah. She also picked how to lay out and the join you used. You love it. Yeah, it's very cool. You always felt like the fish being asked to climb a tree. Yeah, well, I know. I mean, there were a lot of things that happened in my childhood that that did not foster a healthy self-esteem. And so I know where my insecurities in that regard come from. Birding Mom says she worked at a school where they had a girl empowerment class, so she had no girls in her engineer class because they had to fill the class. And you said all, and you were all, question mark, question mark? How can the boys learn if they don't see girls doing the job? Administration got upset with me. Yeah. I mean, when I was a little girl, one of the reasons my mom wanted me to be in Girl Scouts, well, I had expressed interest, I guess. But, one of the reasons that Girl Scouting was so important when I was growing up was because there weren't a lot of opportunity. Girls couldn't play sports. Well, there were girls' sports once you got to high school, but girls couldn't play Little League. Girls couldn't do a lot of things. And, and that has changed a lot over the years. Girls have a lot more opportunities. And as the opportunities for girls have increased, the enrollment in organizations like the Girl Scouts has dropped significantly because there's not as much need as there was. Even though, the Girl Scouts have grown in scope, so like the badges girls can earn now are different from the badges that I could earn, in the 60s and 70s. They can earn badges about engineering and science and, instead of badges about, I don't know, whatever stuff was relevant at the time. And Birding Mom says, and the boys were all talking trash or nasty about the girls, and you told them to put in a decent man class for the boy. Yeah. I mean, if we don't teach our boys, that's one of the things I really appreciate about my mother-in-law is that she taught her boys to respect women. And he's a good person. because that's how his mother raised him. Well, some people are just born good people, but he his beliefs and his behaviors towards women are largely because of the way his mother raised him. And not everybody does. Not everybody sees examples of men treating women well. Yeah, we don't necessarily see it in movies. I mean, we don't not see it in movies, but there's still lots of movies where we don't see it. Fiber Mage is having fun, but she's super tired and it's late, so gonna head off to bed. We'll see you later, alligator. And Made on the Hook is saying goodnight to. Okay, I thought you were leaving too. I was gonna say, and goodnight to you too. Good night, Fiber Mage. We'll see you later, and congrats on the blanket. It's gorgeous. So, okay, gonna knit some more. Is it time to measure the cuff again, or was this the row I already measured? And this little ball of yarn's almost gone. There might not be enough of this to make a hat and a pair of mitts, but there's no reason I can't card some more. Ashley says, oh, so speaking of how cool the community is here, she's getting a free Yarn Swift in the mail. Oh, cool. You think it's break time? Yeah, it's 2 hours and 23 minutes. It probably is time for me to pee. Because, you guys know that's what break time is. It's like, gotta pee. And the bathroom's upstairs. It's a long way away. Okay, well, I'm going to knit across this needle, and then we'll take a break. Wish you had some Chinese food right now. That sounds really good. I'm kind of craving that Thai I was talking about earlier. They've got a couple of soups that are amazing. And then they have this meal that's called, well, it's sizzling beef, but the menu says ZZZZZ. So we call it ZZZZ beef. Oh, that stuff is so good. Okay. I'm sliding the table, but because the camera is clamped to the table, you can't even tell it's moving. Okay, I am gonna go to the bathroom and blow my nose and top off my coffee, and you guys talk amongst yourselves. Or get up and stretch and take a break, and I should be back in about 10 minutes. Okay, let's see if I have myself pulled all back together. Pull the table back up. Oh, it was warmer upstairs than it. I think I said that last night. Why is it warmer upstairs than it is down here? Because, you know, there's no heat registers upstairs. Okay. Oh, yep. Just checking to make sure I turned the mic back on. There's a section. Now you see that's not a balanced ply. That's where I was having a little trouble with the tension on the wheel. Anybody still here? Is everybody leaving? They're looking while you work on your newsletter. That's fine. I just, from time to time, need to make sure I'm not talking to myself. Knitting looks a lot more complicated than crochet. It's really not. It's just different. Because basically all I'm doing is like take the needle and put it through there, catch the yarn, pull it through. So I'm just making a series of loops. So I wouldn't say it's more complicated, but they're different from each other. Birding Mom is here. Everybody's here. Yay. And Birding Mom says it depends on what you're doing. That's very true. It's very true. But yeah, the way they both work in my brain, they're just different from each other. I don't think, and some people learn one more easily than the other. You know, it's like one process will make more sense to a certain person for some reason. Take a little of this extra twist out of here. Like right now what I'm doing is I'm knitting 2 and purling 2, and the closest equivalent I can think of to that would be like, okay, single crochet 2 stitches in the front of the previous row and then knit 2 stitches in the back of the previous row. I mean, you know, it's not a perfect comparison. Have I ever done a project with both knitting and crochet combined? I don't think I have, but I've seen it done. Where, you know, someone will like knit a shawl but then crochet an edging. Okay, yeah. Yeah, exactly what I'm thinking. I don't think I've ever done that for no particular reason. maybe one more. One more row. We'll be at about 2 3/4, and I'm going to call that good. Ashley has seen people crochet a circle for a hat crown and then pick up the stitches and knit the rest of the hat. Oh yeah, that would also work well for a bag with a round bottom. You know what? Neither of those ever occurred to me, but I can see how that could work very well. And Birding Mom says baby garments are often knit with a crocheted collar and cuffs. Yeah. Yeah, I think that all of those are very good ideas. And I don't know why I've never done any of them. That, excuse me, that little ball that was the tail end that wouldn't fit on the bobbin when I was plying is going to turn out to be just about the right amount for the cuff of the hat. Apparently I am easily amused. But you know, I don't know why people say that like it's a bad thing. Well, you're easily amused. Yeah. Maybe comes from having been an only child for the first 5 years of my life. Sometimes you have to be able to amuse yourself. Okay, well, not quite. There is this much left. So we'll start the stockinette stitch. One of the good things about needing to clean up of my piles of fluff here by my chair where I hang out to knit and spin and stream and stuff will be that hopefully I'll find my size 7 circular needle, so I won't have to be poking you guys in the eyeball with these long needles. I do have those shorter 7s, but they're maybe a little shorter than I would prefer. I wonder why my microphone smells like chocolate. It's probably my imagination. I just looked at the timer on Streamlabs. It tells me how long I've been streaming, and it says 2:49:05, and I was like, wait a minute, is it almost 3 already? Most of y'all... There went my lovely pink ruler. Most of y'all usually go to bed long before this, and then I realize that's how long I've been streaming, not what time it is. It's going on 2. Let me scooch you guys out a little bit here. See, I love that. You can't even tell. If I'm clamped to the table, I can move you and not make you car sick. So I am so looking forward to the new table and being able to spread out a little bit instead of having 3 separate tables and knocking things off of them. I need to email the link to Richard, so he's gonna order it on the household debit card instead of me ordering it on mine. And then I have to sort and clean and rearrange furniture, which I'm not really, those are not my favorite things to do. They're kind of stressful. But it will mean I have a nice new area to stream in. And I'm gonna be watching the prices on webcams. I would really like to have at least one more, if not 2. Although I may get brave and use the phone. I wonder if I could use my old phone. The old Galaxy Note 1. It still works. Hasn't been charged up in a while though, so I don't know if that would affect it. I don't understand all this stuff about batteries and electronics. You know, some of them you're supposed to keep them topped up, and other ones you're supposed to let them discharge before, you know, to a certain degree before you recharge them. And I don't know how it works, but I know that one has probably not been charged in like a year, but maybe I'll try charging it and see if it'll hold a charge long enough for a stream. Okay, so if any of you, and I know you're all working on your own stuff, and I keep asking you questions and expecting you to put your stuff down and type, but any of you who have streamed, if you have used phones as part of your camera stable, so to speak, how long can you do that before you lose your charge, or do you just leave it plugged in? Because I usually stream about 4 hours, and I'm pretty sure that my current phone wouldn't hold a charge that long if I was asking it to do something other than just sit there. Never did, but just calling is about 3 to 5 hours, you guess, so you think you'd have to charge it. Yeah, and see, and then, you know, my other question is I'd have to test it to see if it would charge quickly. And like if I leave it plugged in, will that maintain a charge? It's a question of whether using it for the camera would discharge the battery faster than having it plugged in would recharge the battery. It's quality of camera. Well, my current phone is a Galaxy Note 5 and the camera's pretty good. My old phone is a Galaxy Note 1. I thought the camera was pretty good at the time. But, you know, that was a long time ago. So I may experiment with that. Why, thank you, Streamlabs. Yeah, if you anybody who's come in recently, if you have questions about what I'm knitting or the yarn I'm using, feel free to ask or go ahead and use the yarn or project command. Exclamation point project or exclamation point yarn. Thank you, Miss Ashley. Yeah, well, and I actually added a command today, so you can type exclamation point command, and it lists some of the things that you can ask. I probably missed a few things, so. I'm figuring it out. You know, it's taking me a couple of months, but figuring it out better and better. And some of it I've learned from YouTube videos, and a lot of it I have learned from other streamers. And yeah, you set it up in, if you're using Streamlabs, you just go into CloudBot and you can set it up in there. It's fairly straightforward. And you know, you can set things up as commands where when somebody types exclamation point, you know, whatever, it triggers a response. And then you can set other things up as timers. Like I have the new one about how to do the commands is on a timer for like every 30 minutes. And then I have one about with the links to my Ko-Fi or Ko-fi or whatever you call that thing where people can make donations. That's on a timer. And the Discord link is on a timer. And if you guys ever feel like any of that stuff is getting spammed too often, let me know. I can change the amount of time on the timer. Better than you with your technology. Couldn't even set up your label printer the other day. Well, you know what? I've never tried to set up a label printer, and I'm not sure. You know, sometimes adding a new device to the system messes everything up for me. Are you talking about the label printer to like print your postage? I've thought about getting one of those. I'm still in the print the postage on a sheet of paper, cut it in half, and tape it to the package. That's my level of labeling technology. You know, and I was forever having trouble. We have I have a laser printer upstairs for when I need to. It's just black and white when I need to print laser things. But we have an HP DeskJet with all the bells and whistles that belongs to the housemate, and it's in the living room. And you know, we're all on it on the network. And forever, I was having so much trouble. I couldn't get things to print. And then I finally realized that my printer settings were defaulting to a previous printer that we no longer even have. I'm like, why is that even still in there? Need to take that out. The old Lexmark that I can't even get ink for anymore. It's like, of course the Lexmark won't print. Yes, you got so frustrated you decided you'd rather print than tape to the package, but your boyfriend got it set up for you. Well, that's good. It's good to have somebody techie. You know, when I first met Richard, I was impressed with his computer and internet prowess. But he hasn't kept up, and now I'm the computer genius in the house. Except for I'm good with some things, and the housemate's good with other things. So between the two of us, we can usually. He's a youngin'. He's in his early 30s. So you know he grew up with more technology than I did. So if I can't figure something out, I'll often ask him. But other times, like how I got sucked into Twitch was that I was helping him figure out how to set himself up to stream, which he only does occasionally. I'm the one that got sucked in, and now my whole life is in Twitch. And my friend that built my first computer for me in 1998 or 99, and then taught me how to build computers, which I don't do anymore. Things have changed, and I started buying laptops and got left behind because I don't mess with a laptop. You know, if it needs to be fixed, it's going in the shop. But when, you know, before that, I would always, we would buy the case and the power supply and the parts and whatever, and I would put our computers together. And my friend was A+ certified, and, you know, I would forever be asking her, I can't figure out whatever. Well, and then she sort of went offline for a couple of years. She wasn't on the internet much, and you know, I discovered that I could learn most of what I needed on Google. And she was visiting one time, and Richard was having an issue. And she's like, how do you know how to do all this stuff? I was like, Google. You taught me how to find the information I need. So now that's what I do. Birding Mom says, I raised tech natives, so I have permanent tech support. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing. Yeah, none of our youngins are particularly tech savvy. The youngest frequently needs help to figure out how to log into her school websites. Now, she can do anything on a phone, but, she's got this Chromebook for school and it frustrates the hell out of her. But, that's what I was saying earlier about how, a lot of people anymore don't even have a computer. They don't need a computer. Everything they need to do, they can do on their phone. I prefer the full keyboard and the bigger screen. My phone. I get big phones. When I got my first Galaxy Note, a lot of the things I was hearing people say about them was, that's so big. I can't imagine holding that big thing up to my head to talk on the phone. And I'm like, yeah, you'll get used to it. Well, and now everybody makes phones that big now. Nobody thinks anything of it. It was just different at the time. But you know what? If I could have a phone the size of a tablet, I wouldn't be embarrassed holding it up to my head. How often do I talk on the phone anyway? Everybody texts me. I talk to my mother and my mother-in-law on the phone, and that's about it. Everybody else is text or email. Can get a tablet with SIM. Well, I think I knew that, but I guess it never dawned on me that meant you could use it to make phone calls. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe instead of a phone, I'll just get a ginormous tablet. Because, I don't want a small tablet. I want like the 10-inch Galaxy Tab or whatever, the big ones. The ones that are bigger than some televisions I've had in my life. You can call. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I wonder if I could take the SIM card out of my phone and just pop it into the tablet and go back and forth. Or if AT&T would frown on that. Yeah, I think I'm going to like this hat. Can you see Yeah, there we're getting the sparkles. In the sunlight is where you really see the sparkle. But thank you for that information, Trish. Because like I said, I think I knew that you could get tablets with SIM cards, but I think I assumed people just used that for data. I don't think it didn't cross my mind you could make phone calls. So that's good to know. And like I said, I'm like a tree-hugging, dirt worshiper, granola person. I'm not like a sparkle wearer. I would never wear like a sequin, whatever. But I love knitting and weaving and spinning with sparkles in the yarn. I'm like a magpie. It's like, oh, it's shiny. Whoops. No purling. Just knitting. Usually, yes, because you cannot fit a tablet in your pocket. Well, that's a very good point. Unless I make really, really big pockets. That would put a lot of stress on the waistband of your pants, though. Yeah, excuse me. I've thought that it would be really nice to have a tablet for when I do shows because, I use Square and it has the point of sale that you can set, and I could set the point of sale up, and that'd be so much easier on a tablet than on my phone just because, I can't see. Need bigger stuff. And my acupuncturist has gone to using her tablet for Square ever since her most recent phone doesn't have an audio jack, so there was no place to plug it in. So she started using the tablet, and then and now she has the card reader that reads chips, and you don't have to plug it into it. It's like Bluetooth or something. But she's just continued to use the app because now she's got her point of sale set up on there with all of her different services and stuff. Hi, Tractor Man Dan. How the heck are you doing? I am had an interesting couple of days, but I'm doing better. In part, thanks to the lovely people in this community. How's school going? Are you done with school, or you got a little more to go yet? My stepdaughter has been slacking on her schoolwork and realized realized a couple of days ago she's got like 2 weeks to get caught up. Friday is your last day. Well, congratulations. Do you have plans for the summer? You've been doing hay. Really? Oh, hi, Mousy. Dan, you're farther south than I am, aren't you? I always forget. It's probably not still winter at your house. It's cold here. I think it got up to 60 today, though. I'm doing okay, Mousy. It was, yesterday was kind of odd and today was kind of odd, but I'm here and this is my happy place tonight. How are you doing, Mousy? Did you say you had to work today? How was that? It was good. Glad it's Friday. They did. They made me cry. They were really, 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 really nice. And they made me feel really validated and really heard, if that makes sense. And they made me feel really appreciated. It's hot now, like 80 to 90 degrees. Wow. It was, this morning when I went to bed, it was in the low 40s. And I think, well, let me look at my phone and see what AccuWeather says. I know the furnace has been on several times while I've been streaming, so. My phone says it's 58 Fahrenheit right now. Oh, it says the high today was 68. Huh. The high tomorrow is supposed to be 77. I believe it when I see it. And the low tomorrow 54. So well, yeah, I do, and it looks like it's supposed to be in the low 70s, low to mid 70s through the weekend, and then creeping back down to a high of 59 on Tuesday. I never really trust it more than about 24 hours out. I think that it must be really hard to forecast here because of the lay of the land, because we're in the foothills, and I think the weather behaves in unpredictable ways. But yeah, we had a hard freeze in the last week, and a lot of people lost things. Most people here don't put out their tender plants until Memorial Weekend, so another couple of weeks. But some people lost their plants that they had already put out, and I've heard of people talking about having lost their whatever was already going on their fruit trees is no longer going on. I haven't looked at ours. I think ours were at a point where they're probably okay, but I need to go look. Ashley's cleaning up her email inbox. 869 to go. Yeah, my Gmail usually goes until there's like a couple of thousand. I'll spend a whole afternoon at work cleaning out my Gmail. Oh, we were talking. Who were we? Birding Mom? Was it you that said that where you are you could get garden plants, but there weren't baby chicks? The housemate went to Tractor Supply today and they have chicks. So we can get chicks here. Just not sure what's going to happen with garden plants. And Ashley's unsubscribing from junk as she goes. Yeah, I need to do that too, because like I'll see a really cool blog and I'll think, oh, I want to follow you. And then I start getting, all these email notices and things. And realize, you know what, I haven't looked at that woman's blog in like a year. I should unsubscribe. I wonder why you have chickens there or chicks there or no, we have chicks here and you don't have chicks there. Okay, Mousy Moo, what's your question? Learning how to rake hay this year. Cool. Are you raking hay by hand or with farm implementation? Okay, Mousy says on the pattern I'm working on says to increase 4 stitches evenly spaced and there are 74 stitches. How do I do it? Well, let's see. So it doesn't have to be, exactly even. So let's see. 74, and then they want you to add 4 stitches. So I would divide by 4. So about every 18 and a half stitches. So what I would probably do is I would probably do 18 stitches, then knit front and back. You could just do it every 18 stitches and you'd be close enough. You'd have a few extra stitches at one end. Nobody's going to notice. If you wanted to be more meticulous, you could do 18 stitches and then I can't do math right at the moment. I think I'm too tired. But anyway, yeah, if you just do it every 18 stitches, it'll work out closely enough. A birding mom says, don't have chicks because, yeah. And the urban farmer who thought quarantine would be a good time to try raising them. Okay, so there'll be more chicks. There just aren't chicks right now. Excessive demand, not a lack of suppliers. Yeah, here a lot of people already have chickens. Most of the small towns, around here don't care if you, like my little town, when we moved here, when we bought our house here, I looked and I it's like, oh, we have our own house now. I want to see if I can have chickens, and I looked on the borough website and I couldn't find anything about chickens at all. So I asked the mayor, and because everybody knows the mayor in a town this size, and she's like, oh yeah, there's no ordinance. There's people, there so and so has chickens and so has chickens, and she said, I wouldn't recommend a rooster because if your neighbors complain, there's, the nuisance violation is like $100 fine. So we ended up with a rooster accidentally. But yeah, they're just, you can have chickens here as long as your neighbors don't complain. And they don't even care how many. I have way too many I have more chickens than I need because, that's sort of a thing that chicken people like to have more chickens than they need. I'm not sure about in the city. Like if you're like actually in the city in Pittsburgh, I'm not sure if they can have chickens. But it's just, chickens are just sort of, whatever here. Mate on the Hook is lurking. We'll miss you. And Tractor Man asks, what state do I live in? Pennsylvania. It's a big state. I live in the western part of Pennsylvania, a little north of Pittsburgh. And like probably less than half an hour from Ohio. Head down to 355. Keep going. You can do it. Okay, you're Alabama. I remembered you saying that you were in the South after once I thought about it. But I didn't remember where in the South. Southeast, I should say. And Birding Mom is in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know if I've ever been to Alabama. I've been much of the Southeast, having grown up there, but I don't think we ever hit Alabama. Okay, I don't need to have my mouse right in the middle of all my stuff. Had 4 stitches left, so going to knit back, then knit 19, then knit front and back. Sounds like a plan. Usually, when they say just, increase thus many stitches evenly spaced across, you have a lot of latitude in in where you put those stitches. You can do quite a bit of fudging and it'll be okay. Tuscaloosa. Haven't ever been there, but I kind of know where it is. Is there a university there, Dan? See, I'm sticking my nose in y'all's conversations. Feel free to tell me to butt out. University of Alabama, okay. Crimson, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I'm starting to feel like I need to see the acupuncturist. Stretch out my back. A massage would probably be good. to sleep or to crochet? That is the question. You know what? It's way past some of y'all's bedtime. Is Birding Mom leaving? I didn't see her say. Oh, there it is. I missed it. So tired, can't see your stitches in this black swatch. Yeah, oh man. Threading a loom with black thread is a nightmare. And knitting. Well, even some of just the dark stuff I've been knitting here on stream. It's like, I keep wanting my camera to be a light. Well, have a good night, Birding Mom. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for all the love. We'll see you later. Ashley's still here. Yeah, there's still like 8 people here. Usually by this time of night, people have wandered off to bed. Sometimes a second wave comes in. Right about right about this time. Director Man Dan, guess your name. I've assumed that your name is Dan. Is it not? Ashley, are you still cleaning out your email? I know that can take a long time. Close would put an L, so you're Daniel. $79 to go. Director Man Daniel. Do you go by Dan or do you go by Daniel? Because we were having a similar discussion earlier. Fiber Mage and I both have husbands named Richard, and they go by Richard as opposed to Rick or Dick or Rich or any of the other millions of nicknames for Richard. Yeah. I'm starting to think in terms of this turning into yarn chicken. Whether or not there's going to be enough of this to finish this hat. This yarn, just, I am so much more used to working with worsted spun or semi-worsted spun yarn and not accustomed to woolen yarn that, I don't know what to expect. It knits up. It seems like I knit through the ball faster. It's like I didn't measure the yardage, so I have no idea what the yardage is. But, I feel like I'm going to run out faster than I expect for the size the ball is. So we'll see. Maybe I will just, over the next few days, because I won't be streaming, I'll just take the time and wash some more wool and maybe blend some more with this particular color of sparkle and spin some more, because I can always use it. Yarn will never go to waste around here. And because I'd like to make some mitts out of this same color. Goes by yeah, I figured that was what you meant. Alrighty, well, we'll call you Daniel then. Well, I'm obviously not going to finish this hat in the next 10 minutes. So what I will probably do is not work on it over the next couple of days, and then we'll work on it some more when I come back on Sunday night. And I will hopefully get some yarn or some fleece washed. And maybe some of those other things that I keep saying I'm going to do. But I should probably prioritize the sorting and moving furniture around and things, so that when a desk arrives or a table arrives, I will have somewhere to put it. Okay, Tractor Man Daniel is going to head on out. You have a good night too, and good luck on the rest of school. And we'll see you next time. Mossy Moo says make a list. Yeah. Yeah, I make lists. And then I, ignore them. It's more a matter of, I get all caught up in the internet and then I don't get everything done that I meant to get done. I get stuff done, just not necessarily what I meant to get done. Procrastinate. Well, yeah, I can procrastinate too. I don't have any other knitting to do, so I won't get lost in knitting. I need to email the yarn shop and see if she's gonna be reopening, because if she's gonna be reopening now or in the next few weeks, I'd like to have some rowing to take into her. Or to drop off in the covered box on the porch if she's not wanting to be too close to people. One email left. It's a newsletter email you actually want to read. Yeah, this is going to be a nice, snuggly, warm hat. You know, and somebody asked last night if the yarn was soft. Yeah, I'm going to say but it's a different kind of soft than merino or Polworth. But it's soft. It's like it's fuzzy soft, not smooth soft, if that makes sense. Oh no. Your other email inbox has 5,300 emails. The one you've been cleaning up is your professional account, where you sign up for sites and stuff having to do with your career. The one with 5,000 is a personal account you use for bills and stuff. Your work email is actually pretty small, but that's because only 5 people work at my place. Good night, Mate on the Hook. Thanks for hanging out with us. And thanks for all the everything. We'll see you next time. Payday, otherwise known as goodbye money because bills. Alrighty, well, instead of starting this row, I'm gonna ask. It's time. It's been a long couple of days. It's time. It's time for me to head off. Should we raid somebody, or are you guys just gonna wander all off in your own directions? Let's see what's on my followed channels list. Let's see. Some people gaming. Camilla Scarlett is cross-stitching for LGBT plus community art show. Cora is streaming Wednesday Ukulele Day. Wait. Oh, no, it's Thursday Ukulele Day. So she's doing music. Wild Grandma 78's playing World of Warcraft as always. We have sleeping chickens and sleeping ducks and sleeping baby goats and sleeping sheep. Or is there anyone else you guys are interested in? Or I could just log off and I will probably putter around on the computer a little bit, winding down, and then maybe hang out in Mousie's chat for a little while if she's streaming. Okay, let me look again. Okay, Camilla Scarlett. It's one vote for Camilla Scarlett. Should we go ahead and raid her? Any naysayers? Okay, so Mousie's not gonna stream tonight. So okay, well, let me put on the stream ending screen. Oh man, I used to be able to do tongue twisters. Stream ending screen and say thank you guys so much. Try not to cry again. You guys, I really, really, really appreciate the support. And like I said, you guys are becoming friends, and this is my happy place. So thanks for the bits, thanks for the subs, thanks for the follows, thanks for the support and the kind words, and we will. And good night, Trish. So let's see. I'm still figuring out the. Oops, nope, not question mark. I want that and raid and Camilla underscore SCARLET. Is there one T or two T's? Let me see. One T. Okay, here it comes. I don't have a raid call, but just go ahead and spam all the emotes you want when you get there. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for hanging out tonight and being my Twitch family.